And what I discovered when I did my digging around was that Northern Rock currently makes about $1 billion a year in public ownership. That over 15 years it will generate a surplus, according to the National Audit Office, of between 9 and 11 billion. And yet the press release that Margaret Hodge puts out says it will make a loss to a taxpayer of £2 billion, which is just wrong. They have tried a way of coming up with a number that actually, in reality, bears no test at all. And what you're saying about his truth is right. But if we see stuff like that, which is clearly put out to mislead the public down a particular thought process, there is little hope for us.
Okay, I mean, what we can do about this is that my next door neighbour in physical terms in the offices is on the public accounts committee. So I'll get Mark to contact you if you do it, and I will pursue it with him before I make a comment about the figures. But yes, Margaret Hodge doesn't. She's a member of the other team, and so.
But she is chair of the select committee.
But she is chair of the public accounts committee, which is traditionally the way it is. There's a Labour government, there's a Tory chair, and vice versa. Yes, I mean, I can't comment on the figures because I don't have them in my mind. But yeah, I mean, Northern Rock, it'd be interesting to know where is all the toxic stuff being put.
Well, trust me, I've been through the numbers. It is fun.
Okay, all right, well, I'll be interested to read. I'm interested to see what Steve Barclay says about it, actually.
Well,
the MP sits on it, who's next door to me, so I'll ask him. But thank you. Gerald, another one, another bite.
Just wondering about the debate about trust. Our previous MP, splendid chap, great constituency man, got it all wrong, and would be throwing out. And a lot of other MPs were as good as or as bad as he was all the time. So you knew what went in, and a new system set up, and all we're still hearing in the press and on the radio, even from the BBC, that even the new guys are still jiving and playing the system. So you're going to have tasks there, going from doctor to being a politician.
Do you want me to?
They get hands around you.
Allow me to just. An organisation was set up called IPSA in the light of the expenses scandal, and the previous Parliament established it, okay, not current MPs. For £6 million to run this organisation, okay? It is independent, supposedly, of Parliament, though I don't know how you have an independent organisation in this country that isn't answerable to Parliament, but anyway, that's the way it's described. This organisation is responsible for my expenses and for every other MP. I do not award myself expenses. An independent organisation decides whether I get them or not. So anything that has been claimed since May 2010 has been awarded by an independent organisation. I had the Bracknell News on the phone a few months ago, and I said, look, if you've got a problem with my expenses, there is an independent organisation that's been set up to deal with it. It's got nothing to do with me. What do you mean it's got nothing to do with you? It's got nothing to do with me. I only get what I'm entitled to get under the regulations that are laid down. I can't screw anything. I can't do anything with it. I just get it. If I'm not entitled to it, I don't get it. That's how the system works. So what on earth is this all about? I don't know, unless there's a scam I don't know about. Because as far as I'm concerned, I just receive the expenses that are awarded to me by an independent agency. So any newspaper comes to me, local or national, about my expenses, I go, sorry, I've got nothing to say about it, because my country spends £6 million a year on an independent organisation because of what happened. So what's your issue? If you've got a problem with the expenses that Phillip Lee receives as the MP for Bracknell, speak to IPSA. The guy who runs IPSA gets paid twice as much as me and does a 3-day week. Okay, so I don't understand why the media are following it. I really, really don't, because if they are following it, and if there is a problem, then it begs the question, why are we spending all this money on having it at IPSA? What I think we should have done is I should have a responsibility to post on a website what my expense claims are. And if you don't like it, don't vote for me. And there would be regulations. You don't have to have brand spanking new offices on Victoria Street. You should go and see it, Gerald. It's rather impressive. The offices for IPSA are much nicer than my own office as an MP. And it's an absolute disgrace. But I know that the public are very upset about what happened, understandably. I'm not here to defend the past. But going forward, I'm not responsible for it. The decision is made on whether I'm entitled to it under the regulations laid down by IPSA. That's the way it is. It's, that's the way it is. And I am transparent about everything. Absolutely everything. I mean, would you expect me to be otherwise? I mean, what fool would go in after that scandal and not be straight and transparent? I mean, it seems obvious to me.
So why did 51 MPs ask for certain information to be redacted?
Good question. Thank you for asking it. I've had a death threat. Seriously. One of the lady MPs that we have in the Conservative Party down in Kent has had 2 death threats. One of them quite serious, and was in tears on the night of the Dispatches programme because she's worried that one of them's going to find out where she lives in London. There are profound reasons as to why certain members of Parliament didn't want their addresses in the public domain. And I can totally back them up on that.
And I can anyone.
And I think the problem
But that is different from disclosing who the landlord might
it is. Also, with regards to landlords, and I can only talk from having spoken to a few colleagues, most of my colleagues are actually letting from agencies like Morton's or whatever. They don't actually know who owns their flats. And one of them didn't even know that it was being owned, because I think one of them was owned by Frank Lampard. And it's because it was done through a letting agency, and a lot of the properties in London are foreign owned and are investments and being let through companies. Letting agents just didn't know. It was, so there's, the problem with it is that the journalist attack is, oh, it's expensive, they must be doing it. There is an immediate, it's back to trust again. Now, I'm not suggesting for 1 second that in every organisation, every group of people, you're not going to have the old bad apple. And I don't know whether we have or not now. But what I do know is that there were justifiable reasons not to publish the addresses. I've had to take my address at the General Medical Council because I had a guy ring up who I knew, because I could tell, was mentally unwell. He said, I know where you live. He then proceeds to say what my address was. I'm going to come around. Okay.
That's Peter Manders.
So I had to take my home address off the General Medical Council listing, because that's where I was registered as a doctor. Unfortunately, I've had comments online which have had to be investigated by Thames Valley Police because they're basically threatening violence or what have you. That's the world we live in. So there are some reasons.
There are.
But that's not to say that there haven't been some issues in some quarters. I'm not here to defend anyone else. I'm going to defend my own actions. But I just feel that there was a sense this week, the Telegraph saying it again, just feel that it's, if we stop trusting politicians, we really can output ourselves as a country with really, really bad roads. And I think it's about time we started trusting them more.
Dr. Michael Finn, resident of Crowthorne. The government's talking a lot about reducing red tape for small businesses, and in particular there seems to be a lot of to and fro consultations, especially on employment legislation. What's your take and what's the pipeline?
Well, there are people within government who are tasked, actually, it's people like Francis Morgan people who are wading through a lot of this in an attempt. There is a strong desire to get rid of stuff, and we have made progress in some areas, but boy, is there more progress to be made. There's a hell of a lot of sort of EU stroke health and safety stroke series of employment law. A lot of this stuff came in under the previous government, not just directly because of that, but also because of Buy Europe again, that sort of thing, just weighing down small business. So much so, and I've got lots of family members in a small business where actually it's got to a stage where employing people is quite a risk. In fact, the best companies almost don't have employees. It's got that sort of level for small business. It's very different, very challenging. But yes, there is much more to go. Personally, I want to see a bit more simplification on the tax front. I think the tax code is, we could do with just starting anew. The corporation tax saga that's ongoing with all the major companies, and how smaller companies pay their corporation tax, but the big ones seem to avoid it. I think if a tax is being so widely avoided, you should get rid of it. Start again. I've seen mention of turnover tax, I've seen mention of different things. I think we actually need to tax businesses in a way that is immovable. Because people like Starbucks have to pay their national insurance, those are the taxes on the employees, but they're offshoring everything else to avoid corporation tax. Or just get rid of corporation tax and actually start to tax them in a way that is, they can't avoid business rates go up. You just change where you take the tax. You've got to be careful because you don't want to discourage profit incentive and that sort of thing. But, and also, I would argue, just make the state smaller and just not collect £40 billion worth of tax would be my own approach. But I think small business, I mean, we've got 200, I think I saw today, 257 new startups in Bracknell since the start of the year. That is a fantastic statistic, that. 257 new businesses started in this constituency since January the 1st. The first 6 months, was it March? The first 6 months, actually, yeah, the first 6 months, 257. It's fantastic news. So you can do it, but there are certainly problems. But if there's one thing that I know my party is in favour of, is making small business a much easier punt than anything else. So if you've got any suggestions, you read that. Got time for one more question. I thought you were going to put your hand up there. Can I ask another one then? Yeah, sure.
No, it's just an observation about why people don't trust politicians. You see these select committees, they attack on Starbucks. Well, why don't they change it? Instead of moaning about the companies,
well,
do something
first of all,
better.
the select committees don't have a power to implement policy. The select committees are there to hold the government to account. I'm on the Energy and Climate Change Select Committee. We're there to hold the government to account, which is what I was doing on Tuesday. I was being a bit tough on Ed Davey, who's the Secretary of State, on Tuesday evening. But they're also there to run inquiries into events at the moment, sort of interesting sort of up-to-date topics, and corporation tax is one of them. They don't have the powers to change policy, but their papers, their reports, can lead the government to change policy. One example that I've been part of, I was deeply involved with the Macondo oil disaster report, the Energy and Climate Change Select Committee in 2010, and I pushed it really hard. They doubled the number of environmental inspectors on deep sea oil rigs in UK continental shelf waters as a result of that report. So I changed government policy by a roundabout route. The select committees aren't responsible for government policy. So it's just that's why. And finally,
Have your comments on overseas aid, please?
Overseas aid. Thank you. I tried desperately to remain loyal all night. Right, okay. I'm not a huge fan of international development in the way that we do it. I would rather reform the common agricultural policy and allow Africa to exist independently of aid, as an example. We have legally binding international agreements with regards to the proportion of GDP, which is 0.7% GDP on international development aid, which is what drives the amount of money that's going up next year. Please don't boo, but it is going up next year. International development, I'm involved, I'm on the virtual advisory board of something called Cola Life. Cola Life is a great idea, actually. It's you won't know this, I shouldn't think, but Sub-Saharan Africa, the most extensive delivery network in the whole of Sub-Saharan Africa is Coca-Cola. The chap on his bike, the crate of Coca-Cola bottles, their distribution network in Sub-Saharan Africa is better than anything else. And somebody came up with this wonderful idea that, the bottles are tapered at the top, of slotting in rehydration packs for newborn babies in between the tapered heads, top of the bottles. So the guy gets on his bike, he gets paid a penny or equivalent for each pack he carries, so there's a profit incentive. Saab Miller, who were the bottle distributors, signed up. Coca-Cola loved it because it was all about their reputation. And it's been trialled in Zambia. And I supported it, I lent my name to it very early on because I'm actually there's a great book called Shackled Continent about Africa, and how we poured all our aid money in, and it's ended up in Geneva bank accounts and the like. And I liked Code of Life because you could see that it was a sustainable model driven by profit, and that everyone was happy, and that the life expectancy in sub-Saharan Africa is not very good in certain parts, mainly because of infant mortality. So once you get back to 5, you live to 70, but you have to get through those first few years, first year in fact. And most of it's dehydration, so these packs help that. That type of thing, I think, warrants support. Personally, I would rather have philanthropic support, like Bill Gates Foundation, the like. I find the concept of government support, I just don't think it's what we should be doing. So my own personal position is that the Department of International Development should be subsumed into the Foreign Office. I'll put it, I'm stepping out of line by saying that, but you asked me a straight question, I'll give you a straight answer. But we are where we are. I think the new Secretary of State has got some teeth about it, Christine Green. I think she'll get into it. I think she's already announced putting out in India. I think she's going to start concentrating in certain areas. That's got my support. Where we are, it's not going to go. Let's support something that actually delivers. I'm making a presentation to them on Code of Life. They seem to be interested, so hopefully that might be trialled out in other countries. But I'm with you in principle, and I'm not a huge fan of it because I think it's something that should be done by charitable and philanthropic donation, not by government intervention. Just for you two.
Very quick observation. We have done an awful lot with regeneration of Bracknell Town Centre. And some months ago we had a Chinese delegation coming to look at what they're going to be doing in conjunction with the regeneration. Why don't we just get up and run that? Just pay our sums. Why send out the money to China?
Yeah, I mean, there's not a lot going to China. Though I must say, when I was there on a select committee visit, there was a person there working for the Department of International Development, which I found quite remarkable in Joe, particularly according to Joe. I agree with you, but I think that's coming towards an end. I actually went to the dinner for that visit, by the way, in the evening. So. But yes, I mean, yes, if we're going to do international development, can we concentrate on those countries that actually do need support, which are predominantly in Africa, and let's do that. And let's leave the Chinas and the Indias to sort out put their own house in order. That's my position. Anyway, thank you very much. Very interesting questions. I think you win first prize, the most interesting set of questions I've had since I've started doing these Q&A sessions. So thank you very much. So,